not. There's a powerful truth that most people ignore about the human brain. It's not how long you live that matters, but how well your brain keeps up with your body as you age. And tonight, before you go to sleep, what you do or don't do can literally decide whether your brain stays sharp or slowly begins to fade. Sounds dramatic, right? But that's exactly what Japan's oldest practicing doctor, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara, believed. And when a man who lived to one decade, Shigeaki Hinohara often said that the most powerful thing you can do for your brain happens not during the day, but in the quiet minutes before you fall asleep. He believed that the brain cannot truly heal or grow stronger unless the mind is calm. When you lie down with a racing mind, filled with worries, screens, or mental noise, you rob your brain of the peace it needs to recover. Think about how your phone or computer starts to lag if you never restart it. Your brain works the same way. All day long, it collects information, emotions, and small stresses. By night, it's overloaded. If you drift off in that state, the mind stays active while the body sleeps, and your rest becomes shallow. Over time, this prevents your brain from performing one of its most important nightly jobs, cleansing itself. Science now shows exactly what Dr. Hinohara intuitively understood decades ago. During deep sleep, a special system inside the brain called the glymphatic system turns on. It's like a cleaning crew that washes away toxins, waste proteins, and leftover chemicals that accumulate from thinking, moving, and even feeling during the day. If you go to bed anxious or overstimulated, that system doesn't function properly. The stress hormone cortisol stays high, and your brain remains in a mild state of alert. As a result, toxins build up, and over time they contribute to forgetfulness, brain fog, and eventually cognitive decline. The irony is that people who think more before bed, worrying about staying sharp, are often the ones silently harming their brain the most. Dr. Hinohara's solution was deceptively simple. He taught that calming the mind was not about forcing yourself to sleep, but about creating mental emptiness. That could mean sitting quietly, taking slow breaths, or reflecting gently on the day without judgment. He used to say that peace doesn't come from the absence of thought, but from the release of unnecessary thoughts. This practice allowed his brain to relax completely, making room for clarity and creativity the next morning. He believed that the quality of one's sleep depended less on the number of hours and more on the purity of one's final thoughts before drifting off. Modern neuroscience echoes his wisdom. When you practice calmness before sleep, your heart rate slows, your blood pressure drops, and your parasympathetic nervous system, the body's natural recovery mode, takes over. This activates deeper stages of sleep, during which your brain processes memories, builds new neural connections, and strengthens learning. In simple terms, a calm mind before sleep means a sharper brain after waking. On the other hand, going to bed with emotional tension or digital overload triggers shallow sleep cycles, leaving you feeling foggy even after 8 hours in bed. Dr. Hinohara practiced this habit every night of his life, and it's one of the reasons he remained mentally sharp past the age of 100. He treated calmness as medicine and silence as nourishment. For him, it wasn't a luxury. It was a nightly ritual that kept his mind clear, creative, and alive. 5 years old, still treating patients, writing books, and giving lectures past the age of 100, gives advice. Shigeaki Hinohara often emphasized that the brain and heart work together more closely than most people realize. He believed that ending the day with gratitude and forgiveness was not simply an emotional act, but a biological one that directly affects how the brain restores itself during sleep. When you hold on to anger, disappointment, or regret before bed, your body remains in a mild state of stress. The hormone cortisol stays elevated, your nervous system stays alert, and your brain interprets the emotional tension as a sign of danger. This keeps your sleep shallow, shortens your deep sleep cycles, and interferes with the brain's ability to process memories and repair itself. But when you consciously release the day through gratitude and forgiveness, your entire system shifts from stress to safety. Your heartbeat slows, your breathing deepens, and your brain transitions into the healing state it needs to function properly. Dr. Hinohara said that gratitude is the most natural form of mental therapy. He would take a few quiet moments each night to recall something that went well that day. A patient smile, a simple meal, a kind word. By acknowledging those small blessings, he turned his focus away from what was missing or stressful and toward what was life-giving. That mental shift isn't just spiritual, it's chemical. Gratitude increases serotonin and dopamine levels, the same brain chemicals that promote happiness and learning. These neurotransmitters not only improve mood, but also strengthen neural pathways linked to memory and attention. When you practice gratitude before sleep, you're literally priming your brain to wake up clearer, lighter, and more focused. Forgiveness, on the other hand, is the emotional detox the brain needs to stay young. Carrying resentment or replaying arguments keeps the mind active long after the body wants to rest. It's like leaving an engine running overnight. It burns energy, wears down the system, and creates waste. Dr. Hinohara believed that forgiveness wasn't about approving others' behavior, but about freeing your own mind from mental poison by letting go, even just mentally saying, "I release this." You reduce the production of stress hormones that damage the hippocampus, the part of the brain responsible for memory and learning. People who forgive more easily have lower inflammation, better emotional stability, and longer lasting brain health. For Dr. Hinohara, this nightly combination of gratitude and forgiveness was his way of clearing mental clutter. It was like sweeping the mind clean before sleep. He said that no one should go to bed with a heavy heart, because the brain remembers everything you take into your dreams. Ending the day with peace allows the brain to file away the good memories and discard the unnecessary ones. It's the difference between waking up tired from emotional weight and waking up refreshed with mental clarity. Gratitude gives your brain hope, forgiveness gives it freedom, and together they create the emotional balance that keeps the mind youthful, resilient, and sharp, even as the body grows older. About how to keep your brain young, you listen, Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara lived by a principle that sounds simple but carries deep wisdom. Sleep light, eat light, think light. He believed that both physical and mental heaviness before bed interfere with the body's ability to heal and the brain's ability to regenerate. When you go to bed with a full stomach, a restless mind, or emotional weight, your body cannot focus on restoration. Instead of repairing brain cells, balancing hormones, and clearing waste, it wastes energy digesting food and processing thoughts. He used to say that the secret to longevity is not to live less, but to live lighter, because lightness keeps both the body and the mind agile. Eating light at night was one of his consistent habits, even when he was over 100 years old. In Japan, the traditional diet includes small portions of fish, vegetables, rice, and fermented foods like miso or pickles, all of which are gentle on the digestive system. Heavy meals filled with sugar, meat, or fat keep the body's energy focused on digestion for hours, making it harder to fall into deep sleep. Studies now show that eating large meals late at night can spike blood sugar, raise inflammation, and interfere with the release of melatonin, the hormone that helps you fall asleep naturally. Dr. Hinohara's approach was to eat enough to feel satisfied, not stuffed, and to finish dinner at least 2 to 3 hours before bed, not. That way, by the time he lay down to rest, his body was free to shift its focus inward toward restoration instead of digestion. But light eating was only one part of his philosophy. He also believed that mental lightness was equally important. Many people go to bed carrying the emotional weight of their day, unfinished work, financial worries, or arguments replaying in their mind. Dr. Hinohara considered this a form of mental overeating. Just as overeating burdens the stomach, overthinking burdens the brain. To release this heaviness, he practiced gentle reflection before bed. He would remind himself that every problem has its time, and nighttime is for peace, not problem-solving. He saw the night as sacred, a time to let the brain rest so it could face the next day with renewed strength. Modern neuroscience now confirms that an uncluttered mind before sleep allows the brain's neural connections to reorganize more efficiently, improving memory and creativity. Thinking light also meant letting go of unnecessary noise and stimulation. Dr. Hinohara avoided watching television or reading stressful news before bed. He preferred soft music, light stretching, or writing a few thoughts in a notebook. These habits slowed his breathing, calmed his heart, and allowed the mind to naturally unwind. The goal wasn't to escape the world, but to detach from it temporarily, giving the brain a break from constant input. He often said that peace of mind is the real nutrition for the brain. When you end your day with light thoughts, a light stomach, and a light heart, your brain can perform its nightly miracle, healing, cleansing, and preparing you to wake up sharp, clear, and full of life. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara believed that one of the most powerful ways to keep the brain alive and motivated after 60 was to end each day with purpose. He had a simple but profound habit that he practiced until his final years, before going to sleep. He would write down or think about one small goal for the next day. It didn't have to be something grand or difficult. Sometimes it was as simple as replying to a letter, calling a friend, or reading a chapter of a book. For him, it wasn't about achievement, but about direction. The brain, he said, loses its energy not because of age, but because it loses purpose. When you give your brain a clear reason to wake up, you keep its circuits active, and that mental spark becomes a natural antidote to aging. Modern neuroscience supports this idea. Having a sense of purpose increases the release of dopamine, the neurotransmitter responsible for motivation, curiosity, and reward. Dopamine not only makes you feel inspired, it also strengthens neural connections in areas related to memory, learning, and focus. As people age, dopamine levels tend to decline, which is why many older adults begin to lose enthusiasm, drive, and clarity. But studies show that simply having something to look forward to can maintain dopamine balance and protect cognitive health. Dr. Hinohara's nightly goal setting worked like a daily reset button for his brain. It gave his mind a reason to stay engaged and expect tomorrow. He often said that a person without purpose grows old faster than the person whose body slows down. Not. When the brain senses that there is nothing meaningful ahead, it begins to conserve energy, reducing neural activity related to curiosity and learning. This leads to a cycle of mental decline. The less you look forward to, the less your brain fires, the less it fires, the weaker it becomes. But when you end your night thinking, tomorrow I'll do this one thing, you're sending your brain a message that life continues to matter. That anticipation keeps neurons firing even as you sleep. It's like keeping a small flame burning overnight so that your inner fire never goes out. Dr. Hinohara practiced this for over half a century. Even past 100, he woke up each day with an agenda, not because he had to, but because he wanted to. He continued to teach, write, and see patients because he believed that usefulness fuels youthfulness. He once said, "The day I stop having something to do will be the day my brain stops working." That philosophy became his secret to staying sharp, not. His small nightly ritual gave him a rhythm that carried him through the next morning with clarity and enthusiasm. Setting a small purpose before sleep also trains the subconscious mind. During sleep, the brain naturally reviews recent thoughts and organizes them into patterns. When you fall asleep thinking about something meaningful to accomplish, your brain rehearses it in the background, preparing you mentally to act on it the next day. That's why people often wake up with new ideas or sudden clarity. The mind continues working silently through the night. Dr. Hinohara's method wasn't about doing more, but about living intentionally, keeping the brain anchored to curiosity and hope. For him, purpose wasn't measured by productivity, but by the simple joy of knowing that tomorrow still holds something worth waking up for. Dr. Shigeaki Hinohara often said that the strength of your morning depends entirely on the peace of your night. He believed that a calm, restful night is not just about physical recovery, it is the foundation of brain strength and clarity. When the body sleeps but the mind is unsettled, real restoration cannot happen. The brain uses the quiet hours of the night to repair cells, clear toxins, and organize memories. But this delicate process only works when you allow yourself to fall into true rest. A peaceful night signals safety to the brain, telling it that it can shut down its defenses and focus on healing. Without that peace, the mind remains partially awake, trapped in a cycle of shallow rest that leaves you tired and mentally foggy no matter how long you sleep. Dr. Hinohara viewed sleep as a sacred ritual, not just a routine. To him, sleep was the brain's workshop, a time when unseen repairs take place. He often compared the mind to a field that needs to lie still after being cultivated all day. If you keep tilling the soil, thinking, worrying, planning, the field becomes exhausted and barren. But when you let it rest, new life can grow. He saw this principle reflected in the way the brain renews itself every night. The neurons that process thoughts and emotions during the day need time to recharge, and during deep sleep, they actually shrink slightly to allow fluid to wash away metabolic waste. It's a cleansing process, one that restores clarity, focus, and emotional balance for the next day. A restless mind interrupts this cleaning, allowing toxins and stress chemicals to linger, which slowly dulls the brain over time. He was also aware that mental peace before sleep affected emotional strength. People who go to bed with tension, guilt, or overthinking often wake up heavy and distracted, not. Their mornings feel drained before they even begin because their brains spent the night processing turmoil instead of regenerating. But when you end your day in peace, with calm breathing and gratitude, your brain enters deeper, slower sleep cycles. Those cycles are where learning consolidates, emotions balance, and creativity awakens. That's why people who sleep peacefully tend to handle stress better and think more clearly in the morning. Dr. Hinohara believed that this nightly peace was one of the reasons he was able to work, teach, and write productively into his hundreds. His mind never felt dull because he treated rest as a mental investment. He often reminded people that sleep is not wasted time. It's a form of silent training for the brain. Every peaceful night you give yourself strengthens your mental resilience for the next day. The quality of your sleep becomes the quality of your thoughts, your focus, and even your mood. Dr. Hinohara's peaceful nights built the foundation for his lifelong vitality. He showed through his own example that a quiet mind before bed is not a small habit, but a powerful medicine, one that protects memory, enhances creativity, and preserves the energy that defines a youthful mind at any age.